and welcome to the Mobile GameDev Playbook. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. This is the podcast that provides insights into what makes a great mobile game, what is and isn't working for mobile game designers at the moment, and all the latest trends. I'm your host, Jon Jordan, and today we are going to be looking at potential trends for 2022, particularly looking at the Chinese market. So our expert is Kalle Heikkinen, who is the senior analyst at GameRefinery by Vungle in the Chinese market. So you're the man for the job today.
Yes. Thanks for introducing me. Hopefully, we're gonna discuss other markets as well. But the China market is definitely my sort of focus area at GameRefinery. Happy to be in the podcast.
And I guess it is interesting, as we all know, the Chinese mobile market is the biggest in the world as a national market by quite a long way. And I guess it probably has the most influence as well, not just in Southeast Asia, but a lot of the trends we see in China sort of end up sort of flowing around the world. So hopefully we'll pick up some stuff that will be useful to people next year and in future years as well. So what we're going to kick off with, I think events. Events have been a popular subject on the podcast, haven't we? We've covered events recently, and it seems to be you can't have too many events. You can't think too much about in-game events.
Exactly. So that's a very good topic actually to start with. So there's actually two sort of subtopics under events that I would like to just point out here. So the first one being sort of the different types of meta elements making appearances in event design, and then the other one is that we are seeing more and more of these sort of like special playing modes or mini games being added to events. And events, obviously it's not a new thing to say that events are important. Like we have seen different types of events like seasonal events, collaboration events, anniversary events, new server events, you name it, you have it. There's loads of different types of events, and they're obviously important. But what I wanted to really highlight is, for example, these renovation events that we are seeing more and more in mobile games, basically. So that's a trend that has been already going on in 2021, but we strongly believe that the trend will continue next week as well. So just a maybe brief intro if there's someone who's now thinking that, okay, what renovation events? What do you mean? So what we're basically talking about is, like, if you've played Gardenscapes or Homescapes, you probably know that the meta side of things is all about renovating and decorating your house, right? So put that in an event format and put that into basically any casual game that you can find in nowadays, and that's what we are basically talking about. So you have this limited time event, and then during that event you are sort of like doing these different types of renovations, and there are lots of different kinds of monetization opportunities there as well. As usually you have to either play the game to get the materials to renovate the room that you're renovating, or then you have to pay up to do that. And then another sort of meta element that we're seeing in events that we also think that 2022 is going to be a big year for it is to have these special playing modes or mini games. So this is like casual games are doing this, but also mid-core games. So for mid-core side of things, like one example is AFK Arena. So they have these match 3 events, which have nothing to do with, AFK Arena is an idle RPG, as we all know. It has nothing to do with that, but they have these very interesting events that loop from time to time that are about a match 3. And then from the casual side of things, the obvious example is Playrix's game portfolio. So like Fishdom, for example, is nowadays utilizing heavily these sort of mini games that again have nothing to do with the basic match 3 gameplay, but they're just very interesting and fun and surprising events for the players to basically experience. So yeah, that's like a couple of things that we are also expecting to be big in 2022 when it comes to events.
I guess it's sort of interesting. The renovation stuff is interesting, I guess, because because basically when these events start off, you sort of you're like starting at the beginning of a sort of a process where everything's sort of messed up and you're sort of clearing it up. It's a very strong sort of psychological imperative, I think, for the player just to
Yeah, and if you think about the motivations for casual players, like we look at GameRefinery data for motivations, and one of the top motivational drivers for them are actually A, completing milestones, and B, decorating and customizing stuff. So they are directly tapping into those motivations, those renovation events.
I guess another interesting one. I don't know. I get interested to get your opinion on this. So having these mini games, how much of that do you think plays into sort of UA? Because I guess we've had, throughout the last couple of years, really, we've had these sort of UA adverts for games that haven't necessarily been part of the core gameplay, and some companies have sort of got fined around that. But if you have a mini game that's nothing to do with the main game, you can sort of do an advert based on the mini game, which sort of then allows you to sort of honestly say, well, yeah, I'm doing an advert for this. It's a mini game in our game, which may not be related to the main gameplay. But is that something, or is that just coincidence? Do you think?
I'm 100% positive that it's not a coincidence. It's like definitely something that you can have in your playbook when you're thinking about your UA strategy and combining that with these mini games. So like if we think about the AFK Arena example, or for example, the another example might be for Top War, which is a 4X strategy game. It has these merge elements in it, and it's pretty clear that they use those merge elements in their UA activities to attract a certain kind of a player base that normally might not be interested just a 4X strategy gameplay, but then it's the merge mechanics that might be something of a I don't want to say a lure, but different type of value proposition for them to come play the game. I'm not actually 100% sure is AFK Arena using those match 3 modes in their UA. But if they are, it would totally make total sense.
It just goes to me. I'm always sort of fascinated, when we do these podcasts, how now sophisticated mobile game design is. It used to be you choose a basic core sort of element and you'd really try and focus on being the best whatever you were in that genre or maybe sub genre. But now the whole thing is you talk about these events, and then on top of that you have these sort of mini game sort of processes, which are events and other sort of layers. You're building sort of games within mini games within games, but it's all sort of holding together, hopefully, like a core retention, monetization loop. It's becoming incredibly sophisticated products.
Yeah, and it's interesting when, like in Playrix's case, like they have multiple different games where they can use these same sort of events, or at least the sort of the frameworks for these events, and just you have this one mini game X on Fishdom, and then you have the next week you might have basically the same event, the minigame event in another Playrix game. So it's interesting how they can also like recycle the content across their portfolio, which is obviously clever.
What we got next? What's another big trend we're gonna consider?
Well, I was thinking that we could discuss gacha. How about that?
Yeah, can't have too much gacha. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So yeah, there's like obviously like gacha has never been like the gacha scene or the gacha design. It's never been sort of stagnant. Like especially if you have been familiar with Japanese landscape and the mobile games, there's actually been a lot of different kinds of innovations around the gacha mechanics. So it's not just the regular gacha where you pay up or you get up maybe a daily ticket or something, and then you pull a gacha and then you get a randomized reward. But for just to give a couple of examples, in Japan we have these like box gachas, for example. We've had them for a long time, where you have a sort of a specific pool of items, and then when you pull the gacha, you one by one sort of pull the items out of the box, as to say, and then if you pull all those items one by one, obviously in the end you will get all the items from the box. So that's one implementation. Then maybe another example could be this like pity gachas, where if you just keep on pulling the gacha, then at some point you are guaranteed to get an item of a specific rarity, for example. And obviously, like, these are mechanics that we are now seeing in Western games, and like games that maybe they are not, developed by Western developers, but nevertheless they are from games that are popular in the West, but they might be from originating from Asia, like Genshin Impact, for example. So I'm not saying that we are not seeing these special mechanics, but they have been prevalent and much used in Asia, for example, Japan, for a long time. But then, like right now, what we are pretty excited about, or let's say that at least interested to see how it's going to be in 2022, is there's a couple of gacha related mechanics. So the first one is preview gacha. So there are not that many sort of real life examples from mobile scene as of yet. But the latest FIFA game, so the football game, actually has these preview gachas. So what they basically are is that compared to the regular gacha, where you as I already said, you pay something and then you pull the gacha and then you get a randomized reward. In preview gachas, how it goes is that first you actually roll the gacha, and after that you get to take a look at the possible rewards, and then after that you then make a decision that, okay, I will take these rewards. If I decide so, then I have to pay up, and if I look at the rewards and I'm like, okay, well, it's actually not that attractive to me, then I just don't take them. But at least in FIFA's case, then you have to wait for 24 hours or something like that. So I just, like, at least from the mechanics point of view, I see no reason why we wouldn't see at least some sort of iterations or implementations of this mechanics. So really looking forward to see some applications of that in the West. I mean, no matter the geographical area, but in the mobile scene.
Again, that's sort of counterintuitive, isn't it? You kind of think, well, the whole point of gacha is the randomness, and you sort of get what you get. So it's interesting to dig into what obviously game developers are doing that because they think it works better for them and their business model. I guess in some degrees it's sort of helpful in terms of people have complained against gachas because they kind of go, well, it's sort of like gambling. And if you can see what you've got, then people can go, well, I don't want it, and then they're locked out. So I guess the clever thing is the lockout, is the time lockout, because that's what you're sort of losing. So you're kind of thinking, is the reason to not take this one worth not doing anything for 24 hours? And I guess for some players, just like, no, don't want it, that's fine. I wasn't going to buy it. I was only going to buy one. For people who are more interested in buying stuff, it's like, well, I'll take that one because I want to have another go. So it's quite an interesting, again, sophisticated sort of mechanic. So yeah, that would be definitely interested to see how that plays out.
Yes, totally agree. And then the other one, the sort of a gacha related mechanic, is to add social element to a gacha. So we've seen some examples of this. For example, in Japan, where there's this game called Kotodaman, where there's basically a co-op gacha. So how it works is that if you do it, you can do it in solo. If you do it solo, then it's pretty much a regular gacha. But if you do it in co-op, then you press the button to sort of, now I want to do the co-op gacha, and then the system will find you a team of players. I believe it was like six players in total, so random players. And then you have this sort of a team, and then each one of these 6 players then selects one character from a pre-selected pool of characters. So all the participants do this. And after that, then all of the participants will get each other's characters. So that is a very interesting way to add a sort of a social twist to a gacha. So you're also like, you make a decision on what kind of character you will get, but it's also, like the stuff that you get is there's the other players also have an effect on what you are getting, which is quite interesting. But yeah, that's on the sort of the gacha side of things. So the social gacha is also something that we could definitely see picking up 2022.
Okay, should we move on to something bigger scale? So we can talk about AAA. So AAA is always, I guess, as an industry sort of matures and gets stronger, the sort of value and the cost of AAA is always increasing. But I guess there's always that premium feel to something is always something that sort of really draws in the crowd. I guess said it many times this year, many times in 2021. Sort of in 2020, Genshin Impact as a real sort of defining sort of product.
Exactly. So, like you mentioned, we've recently seen some really, really high quality mobile games in terms of graphical fidelity and game world scope and so on. So, like you mentioned, Genshin Impact, for example, and then Marvel Future Revolution also falls under this umbrella as well. And I strongly believe that these kind of types of experiences are something that we will see more in the future, for example, in 2022 as well. So not saying that all the mobile game landscape or the market in general would be heavily shifting to this direction, but let's just say maybe that like a couple of years ago we had none of these types of AAA games on mobile, and now we have some, and I just believe that the trend is going to accelerate in the future. And related to this is also the sort of increase in crossplay games. So we've had examples like Genshin Impact and Fortnite, obviously, and Minecraft and Roblox and so on. But there are also games like Star Wars Hunters coming up, Fallout 84, Honkai Star Rail, which are all sort of taking advantage of the crossplay possibilities. So definitely going to predict that 2022 will see more examples of crossplay games. And then maybe the sort of last relating point is that I think if I would have to pick up one specific genre when it's going to get very, very interesting in 2022, it would definitely be the shooter space. So it's going to really heat up. So already this fall we had PUBG New State and some other interesting titles, but there's the Valorant Mobile is coming, Apex Legends is coming. Going to be globally launched, and we just had Final Fantasy First Soldier, and there's the Division Mobile coming up, and so on. So that is going to be one specific genre that is going to be very, very interesting to follow, and how will these new entrants find their audiences, or will there who is going to be end up finding top crossing success, and who will not. So that's going to be interesting to see.
No, it's a good point there. The cross platform allows you, I suppose, to probably makes it slightly more expensive to build from an engineering point of view, but it allows you to just address that. You have it ensures, I guess, that your game is really good for the sort of console PC sort of crowd who really like that, whatever the experience is. But also, if you can then get the mobile stuff in, that gives you the monetization, I suppose, and it gives you the reach. So you're addressing then billions potentially of people instead of tens of millions. I guess it's also interesting though that not all games like that are there. I guess the big one coming out of China this year coming out in 2022 is Diablo Immortal, which is mobile only, I think, isn't it? So there's still scope for mobile only AAA games. So there's sort of slightly different takes on what AAA is.
Yeah, and that's actually tapping into if we'd had one more trend added to today's list, it probably would have been the sort of big IPs coming to mobile and stuff like that, and some of the IPs really tapping into this nostalgia factor as well. Or let's say that sort of an older gaming franchise is like Diablo. So that's a perfect example. So really interesting to see how that game is going to perform.
Would you say actually also on that point, that sort of reminds me that one of the big games in China in 2021 has been the Harry Potter game, which is coming to the West in 2022. But it's been interesting that there seems to be some discussion about the sort of how the monetization and sort of retention works for the Chinese market, and how that's maybe going to be what the reaction to that's going to be in sort of North America, kind of Western European markets. And I guess it's a similar thing for Diablo Immortal, which has been developed in China, not necessarily for the Chinese market first, but there's some interesting sort of tension there, I guess, in terms of how different audiences want to interact with their experiences, and it becomes harder, I guess, for IP when people go, well, I remember when I was playing Diablo 2, blah blah blah, all the time I spent there, or people going, I loved Harry Potter when I was little, and that sort of, that's very hard to do from a game design and deployment point of view. You can't really please everyone, so it's really interesting to see when those games come out in the West how they are, what the reaction is to them.
Yes, yeah, definitely agree with you. Like, players can have certain types of attitudes towards players that, or like their favorite franchises that are now being developed by developers that just have some certain kind of associations with them. So, but yeah, let's hope that the game is as good as it can be.
And what's our final trend to dig into?
Yeah, so let's just finally. I know we have in this podcast, we have been discussing a lot on the topic of battle passes getting more popular and social elements in casual getting more popular, but we just can't help ourselves. I mean, it's just a fact that it's still a trend. More and more games are adopting, for example, a battle pass. Like, for example, just the last year, the top crossing utilization rose from 46% to 61%, and like in 2022, probably we're gonna see even more games in top crossing adopting battle passes, and they're, as we have said before, they're not tied to any specific genre. Like, we see them everywhere practically. Like it's really hard to find a genre nowadays where there wouldn't be an example of a game title having a battle pass. So just wanted to say that 2022 again, probably we will see even higher usage of battle pass. And then it's the same thing with the social elements in casual games. It might be that we're sounding like a broken record, but but for example, guilds in top 100 titles last year, the utilization rose from 60% to 70%, and like we see no reason why it couldn't go even higher from there. So 2022, more utilization of different types of social mechanics and features and systems for sure, and then deeper social systems as well. So, like, one example is the time management game Cooking Diary, which just recently added this social hanging out area system where you can, outside the normal gameplay, you can go hang out with your friends and engage in some casual activities there. So that's very interesting. We haven't seen these hangout areas in time management games before, for example.
No, it is always interesting that you kind of think, so some of these sort of features, as I say, you've been talking about Battle Pass for months, if not years now, but it's always sort of more that can be done with those, and still more sort of as sort of developers and designers sort of get to grips with this, they sort of realise that you can put these in the right context. You can sort of mold them into any game sort of genre. It doesn't have to be for the battle royale shooters that they were first sort of that first adopted them. That they really, these techniques can be, in the right context, sort of used everywhere. So great, excellent. So in-game events, renovation events, gachas, more AAA, and more battle passes and socials. That's where mobile games is going. Thank you very much for your time, Kalle.
Thank you,
and thank you for listening. So that's it for today. So every month or so, we are publishing new podcasts covering what's going on in mobile games, what's looking at what's been happening and looking towards the future. There is always so much going on as the mobile games industry gets bigger and bigger, and it goes from 3 billion. I guess probably won't be too long before we're up to 4 billion players. So keep it here. Please subscribe to the Mobile GameDev Playbook via your podcast or video platform of choice, and give us some reviews. It's always helpful to get some reviews. It helps other people find us. So thanks for listening, and see you next time.